Tier 2, core activation. Let's get it. So the first one is going to be a standing exercise that you're going to use some sort of stick with. Okay, now I'm describing and showing you with a Swiffer. I have these beautiful exercise sticks right here, but I want this to be accessible and well known that anyone at home can be doing this just as easy as I could be doing with my actual exercise equipment. So you're going to grab some sort of staff or stick, okay? Dowel, PVC pipe, broom, anything. So now, with that, you're going to put it on the back of your shoulders and hopefully not bend it, okay? So don't, yank on it too hard or anything like that. But it's at the top of my shoulders here. So now I'm going to get into a bent over position, which we've talked about now several times, where I lower my chest towards the ground and keep my knees just slightly bent, okay, not too bent, just slightly. And I'm going to go to the point of lowering my chest down towards the ground where my back is flat and then my hamstring stretch stops me, okay? I can't go any further because my hamstrings won't let me unless I round, which I don't want. Okay, I don't want to round my back here. So if you start tall, bend at the waist, lowering your chest forward, that's what we want. Now this is where shit gets real spicy, okay? What I'm going to do is a pushing and a pulling exercise in this position. So I'm going to push the Swiffer out in front of me, keeping my arms and shoulders really high off the ground. Then I'm going to pull the stick back down onto my shoulders to engage my lats and rhomboids, which we've already talked about rolling earlier. So I'm going to show a couple reps, and then I'll probably talk a little bit more. We're going to do 10 of these total, and this is really hard on the shoulders. So not only are we activating our core by being in this position, but we're also beginning to warm up our shoulders as well, okay? So first, bend over, knees soft. Now check this out. I'm going to push the stick above my head, forward, not letting my arms drop towards the ground. So not letting this happen. I'm staying as high up as I can. Then I come back down super slowly to the top of my shoulders. Now I'm pulling down on my stick to engage my back muscles. So I'm actually pulling onto my body more. Then I'll press again. So I'm going to go back and forth now, pressing the arms straight, pulling the elbows down and back, feeling the lats and rhomboids there. Back and forth. Shoulders are going to burn. Make sure that you don't go too quickly. You can see that I'm moving really slow. And even though this is hard, it doesn't mean you should speed up. If you want to do less reps than I am, I'm doing 10. If you want to do 5, that's fine. Totally fine. Just keep the tempo and keep the form. And one thing that I tend to notice here with clients in this type of exercise is that as they go along, their chest will come up higher and higher, and then before you know it, they're standing. Okay, so you don't want to end up standing. You want to keep your chest exactly where you started it with, not coming up higher and higher. And as you go along now, you're going to notice shoulders are burning for sure, but now my low back is burning. My legs might start to burn a little bit. And this is all good, okay? The low back is meant to be worked in this exercise. So that is part of our core activation for the rest of the day. Okay? So I just did around 10. If you need to pause, if you need to relax, if you need to do less than 10, do so. But that's the first one, okay? Now the next one is another DNS exercise. I've already explained DNS before, but dynamic neuromuscular stabilization, how the body develops as a child. This one is going to be a little bit more challenging because, again, the shoulders are going to work a little bit harder. So we're going to start on our hands and knees. Hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And what you would notice here, if you're looking at me straight on, is that my knees are going to be a little bit wider than my feet. Maybe you can see that. Maybe you can't. Hopefully you can. So my knees are slightly wider than my feet. My hands are directly under my shoulders. Now from here, keeping all of this, I'm going to lift my knees off the ground to put my butt up into the air. Now I'm going to swivel again so you can see that part. So it's important that my arms stay super engaged here, right? I cannot allow my elbows to bend. So I'm going to lift my knees slightly. My core is braced. I'm consciously tightening my abs here. Now watch my butt go up. My knees are lifting off the ground more. My butt is going higher. And my head is going to start to look back towards my toes. Now this is as high as I'm going to go. So my eyes are about over my thumb line. My elbows are still straight. My knees are still slightly wider than my feet. My abs are consciously being braced. So I'm squeezing my abs here to stay stable. Because let's say, hey, maybe in the future we want to take a foot off the ground. Maybe in the future we want to take a hand off the ground like I'm doing now. You can hear in my voice my core engaging to stabilize my spine. Today we're just going to hold this for around a minute. So the thighs are getting warmed up, core is getting warmed up, shoulders are getting more warmed up after that first one, and I'm breathing. I'm going to do about 20 more seconds. Make sure everything is still engaged, fingers pressing through the floor, elbows straight. Position is the same. Now, I just did a minute. Doesn't mean you have to do a minute. Remember, anything that I do can be adjusted for whatever is appropriate for you. So make sure you remember that. Okay, now the last exercise of the core activation series is in tabletop as well. And for this one, what's important to recognize is how stable your body is being while you go through the exercise. So I'm going to show you with a stick how the stick is going to be responsive to how stable my core is, which I've showed you before with a stick. Okay, so we're going to do a hip abduction. I'm going to show you with a stick on my back. So I'm in tabletop. The stick is on my low back, as you can already see. I'm trying to adjust. And my hands are directly under my shoulders. My knees are directly under my hips, as we've talked about in tabletop position before. Now, when I go to lift a knee, you're going to notice that even though I'm moving my knee, I'm engaging my hip, my core, my abdominals are working a lot here as well. So just because I'm moving something doesn't mean this is not working. So now I'm going to do 15 abductions with my right knee first. So I'm going to bring my knee out to the side as high as I can, and this is it, without twisting my body. And then I'm going to come back down. Then I'm going to go back up. And then I'm going to go back down. So all I'm doing is gently lifting my knee out to the side. And as I do this, my glute medius, the external rotators of the hip out here, are what's engaging to activate my hip there. Some of us might feel some pinching sensations. I do a little bit as well, because what you're doing is you're finding your end range of the hip joint in abduction. You're pushing to the very limit of how far the knee can go out to the side, and therefore the hip joint. And in doing that, the glutes and obviously the core to hold you here are working. So that's 10. Do at least 10, and you can go up to 15 if you like. Notice that my knee angle has not moved. And notice also that the stick has not fallen off my body. If I were to do it poorly, which I'll demonstrate right now, if I lift my knee super high, but I twist, then I lose the stick, right? So the point is that you're staying stable in your spine as you lift the knee out to the side, and that's going to keep your core engaged and also going to make the glute activate really well as we want it to. Okay, now I'm going to switch sides. Abducting the left leg, left hip, activating left glutes. Okay, so knee is going to go directly out the side. Something I didn't say last time on the previous side is how the knee should be going directly to your side. One thing that I tend to notice with this exercise is that when people bring the knee out to the side, the knee will also go forward. That is not at all what you want. That's very important. If the knee goes forward, it means the hip flexor, the front side of the hip, is working more than the glutes. And we want all glutes. Okay? So be mindful of that angle. And also the sensation. Be mindful of what you're feeling, because what you're feeling is the most important thing. What I feel is not what you feel, and I don't know what you're feeling either. So pay attention. Am I feeling glutes? Am I feeling hip flexor? Am I just, my core is burning so much I can't feel anything in my hips? Just notice what's going on with you. So now I'm going to do 15 on my left leg, left hip. I definitely feel the glute activation on my left side better than my right. I've had a right hip injury before, so I have a little bit more trouble activating my right glute. So basically my right ass cheek is not as big as my left. What a bummer. It's also really important that you go slow in this. As you've noticed with everything, I'm trying to really squeeze and feel the outside of my left hip here. So you'll notice when I lift that left knee, I'm going to hold for a half second just to see if I can feel that glute. So I like doing that personally, and obviously that's what I recommend. I'm going to do one more for 15. All right, so that's the first set of the core activation drills. Do at least one more, maybe two more if you really want to get it today. And I will see you in tier 3 if you're moving on. Peace, guys.